morning and welcome to our One World Spiritual Center online gathering. Okay, I'm in a very different place. I'm on vacation this week and my wife and I are in Ocean Isle, North Carolina. So I just had to bring you this service from the Atlantic Ocean, which is directly behind me. It is beautiful. I apologize for the noise, but the good news is you get to listen throughout this entire opening to the waves and to the beach, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you can see some birds flying around behind me. I know you see people walking on the beach. Anyway, it is simply beautiful, and I wanted to be able to bring this to you from such a beautiful place. So welcome to our online gathering. We have a great service for you today. We are going to have some fabulous One World music. We have a talk. We are beginning our October series on service, on reaching out and being of joyful service to others and to our community. We're going to have the time to join together in reflection and some prayer. We are going to find out what's going on with our kids. And the best thing of all is we are going to just spend some time unfolding and awakening and growing individually and collectively. So let's do what we do every Sunday, no matter where we are, whether I'm in a backyard, whether I'm in front of the ocean, doesn't matter. Let's just take a minute and take a breath and bring our awareness to this moment. Just take a deep breath and smile. Let your awareness just rest in this beautiful particular moment. Nothing to do, no place to go. Just be willing to be here for this gathering for the next 45 minutes or so. Lay aside the detail, the rushing, all the stuff that so populates our days. Let's just be here together for the next 45 minutes or so. We sit with willingness, with openness, with gratitude. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. And I forgot to say, if this is your first time watching or listening, I'd like to extend a very special welcome to you. I am so glad you're here. If you have any questions about One World, please email us at info@oneworldspiritualcenter.net and we will do our best to answer them. So, before we jump in, I'd like to share with you a beautiful reflection on service, because that is what we're talking about this month. And this reflection is an observation from that very wise man who, when we were kids, I believe, taught us all, Fred Rogers. So I invite you to listen. At the center of the universe is a loving heart that continues to beat and that wants the best for every person. Anything we can do to help foster the intellect and spirit and emotional growth of our fellow human beings, that is our job. Those of us who have this particular vision must continue against all odds. Life is for service. And it is. And so with that, I'm thrilled to bring you our opening song. Please enjoy. This is the time in our gathering when we have the opportunity to come together in prayer and reflection in support of each other, our community, our beloved, and widening the circle, all beings, so that all may be comforted and uplifted and healed, so that all beings, near or far, may be well and at peace. So let's take a moment, take a breath, wherever you are. Bring your awareness to this moment. Moving your focus and your awareness from your busy, zooming around mind down to your heart space. Feeling it warm and soften and open. We come together in this moment to share our energies and our light and our love in support of our world, our greater communities. So take a breath, in and out, peaceful and still and calm. Creator God, we are grateful for this right now, for the energies and the love and the joy and the wisdom of every person watching and listening here. We join our light and our love and our hearts in support of each other, in support of our communities, in support of all beings. May all beings be well. May they be filled with joy and life. May they be protected and healed and renewed and uplifted. We are grateful that each one of us has the chance to bring our gifts to serve, to make this world a better place, to ease the burden of those who suffer, to comfort the sick, to help heal the afflicted, to lift up those who live in poverty or fear or want. We commit ourselves to this greater purpose, and we are grateful for the opportunity to serve, and so it is. And together we say, Amen. If you have a beloved on your heart, or an upcoming situation, or a circumstance in your life that troubles you or that concerns you, let's take a moment, as we do every week, and just sit in silence for a few seconds, laying into the circle of our loving energy all those concerns and cares that we have on our heart, knowing that they are heard, knowing that the universe is always sending healing and strength and comfort and renewal. So take a breath, and whatever is on your heart or your mind, just let it rest there for a moment, knowing it is heard. Sweet Spirit, we release all our beloved, our life circumstances, our concerns to you. We know and we are grateful that healing is coming, that strength and comfort are here, that we do not walk these paths alone. When times are dark, when we cannot see over that next horizon, we give thanks for the power that knows to make a way when we see none. We are grateful that even though we may not see the whole path, we get light for the next step. Send comfort, send healing, send vitality and health to all our beloved. and we widen the circle to include all those beings whom we will never meet, but who are still our neighbors, who are still our beloved. May all beings, wherever found, be healed, be joyful, be comforted, protected, and whole. We send that powerful light out to all beings, lifting the consciousness of this world so that we may all be the beloved community that we know is possible. We are grateful for renewal and healing to come, and so it is. And together we say, Amen. So as we close our prayer time, I'd like to share with you a blessing. It was written in, and I've used it before, but I think it's appropriate for today. I just love it. It was written in honor of two Unitarians, Martha and Waite Still Sharp. During World War II, they left their two small children behind, and they traveled to Europe to assist escaping Jews at great personal risk. So I invite you to listen. The prayer is called All That We Share is Sacred, and it's by Andre Moll. As we gather together, may we remember, when you share with me what is most important to you, that is where listening begins. When I show you that I hear you, when I say your life matters, that is where compassion begins. When I open the door to greet you, that is where hospitality begins. When I venture out to bring you to shelter, that is where love begins. When I risk my comfort to ease your suffering, when I act against hatred, violence, and injustice, that is where courage begins. When we experience the full presence of each other because of our shared humanity, because of our differences, that is where holy gratitude begins. May this space be a table that is not complete until all are welcome. May this table be a space of beauty where together we create a series of miracles and where all that we share is sacred. May it be so. A beautiful prayer and a beautiful energy going forward, where all that we share, all that we create together is sacred. And so with that, I'm thrilled to bring you our special music, followed by our talk on service. Please enjoy.
So we're going to work together. Together we stand, divided we fall. Come on now, people, let's get on the ball. Work together. Come on, let's work together. Now, people, because together we will stand. Every boy, every girl, and a man. Before things go wrong, and they sometimes will, as the road that you travel stays. All that counts, work together. Come on, let's work together. Now, people, you know together we will stand. Every boy, girl, woman, and a man. All right, Paul, come on. Now come on, all you people, walk hand in hand. Let's make this world of ours a good place to stand. Let's work together. Come on, let's work together. Come on, people, because together we will stand. Every boy, every girl, and woman and baby. You know, together we will stand. Every boy, girl, woman, and man.
Welcome, and thank you again for joining us. I appreciate you being with us as we begin our series on service. My talk today is entitled Boots on the Ground. Maybe it's my military background, I have no idea, but I really like the image. But what I'm talking about is service. Albert Schweitzer once wrote, "I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I do know, the only ones among you who will be truly happy are those who have sought and found how to serve." So the key spiritual practice that we are talking about today is service. My goal today is to begin a discussion of how we step into our gifts of creativity and compassion and kindness, how we grow from them and share them with the world. As I was preparing this talk, I went back to one of my favorite books, I've talked about it before, which is Dr. Roger Walsh's Essential Spirituality. Many of us are familiar with this book. If you are not, I really recommend it to you. If you go to the resource page on our One World Spiritual Center website, you will see the book there and a link to buy it. Dr. Walsh's book is a result of 23 years of research in and practice of the world's spiritual disciplines. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Walsh. And again, I apologize to those who have heard this before. He trained as a psychiatrist with additional training in psychology, physiology, and neuroscience. He published articles and books on the brain and on human behavior. He initially believed, he writes, that whatever could not be measured with the instruments of science simply did not exist. He was agnostic. He was sure that the answers to our behaviors, our motivations, what drives us, behavior and consciousness, could be measured and verified and replicated. Okay, then he started to work with actual patients, and all his certainty started to fade. He writes that he tried to help patients who had behaviors and mental states that he frankly could not figure out, regardless of all his degrees and all his training. In order to learn more about the workings of the human mind, he started psychotherapy himself. He was certain it would be a few interesting weeks, just learn a little bit about it, and not much more. However, as he explored his own mind, he writes, "I discovered an unsuspecting universe within me, as vast and mysterious as the external universe around me. It was literally the greatest shock of my life." He found that this inner world was the secret to discovering more about himself, the vistas of his consciousness that were completely unreachable, unattainable, and unknowable if all he limited himself to was his cognitive awareness. He found, to his amazement, that his cognitive understanding was just the surface. His inner world, as he called it and as he experienced it, was the key to understanding his mind and understanding himself. So he began to meditate. He came to realize that his mind was really far more vast than he ever thought. But he was still troubled. He was still an agnostic. He was firmly tied to the scientific view. He wondered why he was achieving these amazing insights through what he essentially thought was a primitive practice, what he thought was tied to religion in which he did not believe. He spent months puzzling over this question. Then, one day, he had a flash of understanding that changed his life forever. It was one of those epiphany moments, probably when he was thinking about something else, but all of a sudden, just blam, there you have this insight. He recognized, and this is how he writes it, "At their spiritual center, the great religions contain a common core of practices for training the mind." I love that. Let me read it again. "At their spiritual center, the great religions contain a common core of practices for training the mind." He realized that these practices are designed to help us cultivate wisdom and love, to lead us into a broader connection with all that vast universe within that is totally unknown to the science he swore had all the answers. So given this insight, Dr. Walsh plunged into a study of the world's major faith traditions to identify the spiritual practices that lead us to these insights. That's his book. In Essential Spirituality, he identifies 7 what he calls perennial practices that are common to the world's major faith traditions. Following these practices, he writes, will lead us to cultivate kindness and love, joy, peace, vision, wisdom, and generosity. In sharing these insights, Dr. Walsh's goal is to tell us that life can be, as he calls it, ecstatic. That growing spiritual awareness leads us into greater joy, enlightenment, and peace. The goal of these spiritual practices is to connect with the profound joy that is right there at our very center. One of the 7 perennial practices is, as he calls it, expressing spirit in action, embracing generosity and the joy of service. When I say generosity, and when he says generosity, I don't mean only money. I mean a free and loving giving of yourself, your skills, your time, your attention, and your heart. That is what we are exploring this month. When we think of giving and of service, we don't often connect these practices with joy. We may think of duty, obligation, expectations. That is not what is meant by loving service. Selfless giving with no thought of return is a profoundly joyous act. Dr. Walsh uses the example of Mother Teresa's nuns who live in the poorest slums in India and tend the forgotten and the abandoned. They work long hours, they live in the simplest circumstances, they face disease and poverty and death every day as they serve the city's poorest and most desperate. A television interviewer once went to their hospital and asked why all the nuns look so happy. He said, "Is this a put-on?" Mother Teresa replied, "It was not." She said at the time, "Nothing makes you happier than when you really reach out in mercy to someone who is badly hurt." The interviewer wrote, "I have never experienced so sharp a sense of joy." We know from our own experience that acts of love and service need not be huge. Simple acts of kindness and service can transform us and those around us. Gifts of kindness or caring, not requested, reimbursed, and maybe not even recognized. It's a gift. It's a loving gift. It's not a business transaction. It's not a quid pro quo. So why do these instances produce such joy? I believe it's because when we are in complete alignment with the divine that is at our essence, these practices result in joy, result in profound joy. We came here to be kindness, compassion, and love. And when we live those principles, we are truly open channels for spirit expressing. We are truly love in action. Mother Teresa said, "Love cannot remain by itself. It has no meaning. Love has to be put into action, and that action is service." When we awaken, if I can use that word, when we awaken to that place of compassion and love for others, those we know, those we don't, joy is the almost inevitable result, and service is its expression. Another way of putting it is joy is both a cause and a result of loving service. It's both a cause and a result of loving service. In his book, How Can I Help?, Ram Dass wrote that it is in our nature simply to step in and help with no thought of reward. Think about it. When we see somebody struggling with a heavy package, we help. An elderly person has difficulty crossing a street, we stop. Someone in a store becomes ill, we help. Why? Because in that moment, we step outside our own concerns, our own preoccupations, our own head. We feel that a deeper process is at work. We feel that a connection is at work. In service to each other, as he writes, we experience our unity. In service, we participate in the holy, finding it in ourselves, in others, and in our connections. In the Upanishads, it is said, if you want to be happy, be giving. Humans have known this truth for thousands of years. Humans have lived this truth for thousands of years. However, we have so many barriers to generosity. We have so many ways to talk ourselves out of it, talk ourselves out of simply giving, sharing the abundance that has been given so generously to us. Sometimes giving of our time, our money, our effort feels more like a burden than a joy. Sometimes our perception of limitation and lack gives rise to a sense of hopelessness and a conviction there is nothing we can do to make any difference. What do we tell ourselves? I'm just one small person. What can I do? We talk ourselves literally into not helping, saying any effort of ours in the midst of all the global misery would mean nothing. I find that especially true today when it seems like every time I turn on the computer and look at the headlines, there is a problem that just seems absolutely insoluble. Or we tell ourselves that those in poverty or want simply don't deserve our attention. Why should I give my money to that guy? He looks like he can get a job. Why is he holding a sign instead of going out and getting a job? Why should I pay for all those people who don't want to work? Why should I give my money or my time to them? Then, in responding to a thought like that, I remember what Reverend Cliff Dawkins said. I spoke about this last week when somebody told him that adage, I'd rather teach a man to fish than give him a fish. Reverend Dawkins said, not everyone can learn how to fish, and we need to take care of them as well. We need to take care of them as well. We do. I also find myself, as I was preparing this talk, I also found myself thinking about the concept of my money. If we think that spirit is the source of our abundance, when did it turn into my money? Am I not a steward of this money for the benefit of all, just as I am a steward of the creation that has been so freely given to us, or other resources that have been gifted to us? When I regard my resources, all my resources, as in that way, how does it change the way I spend or save or invest? What happened to make all this stuff mine? Well, nothing. It's not mine. There is a Jewish prayer that gives us a perspective on stewardship, and I'd love to share it with you. And God saw everything that he had made and found it very good. And he said, this is a beautiful world that I have given you. Take good care of it. Do not ruin it. It is said, before the world was created, the Holy One kept creating worlds and destroying them. Finally, he created this one and was satisfied. He said to Adam, this is the last world I shall make. I place it in your hands. Hold it in trust. Not just the world. All the abundance we have been given, we hold in trust. This attitude, the attitude of service and compassion, is an absolute game changer, and it leads you to new places for sure. I am not sure of what all the answers are, but I know that each step on our path requires us to live the questions. I also think it helps to remember and practice what we teach our kids. What do we teach them? To share, to be generous, to be helpful. We teach them these values because we know that that's the way we're supposed to be. We know that's the way we're supposed to live. So why do we teach these fabulous values to our kids and then so often go out the door and do the exact opposite? Sometimes we need our kids to remind us. I am lucky to have kids who remind me. My wife had a business associate several years ago here in town, or actually in Atlanta, since I'm not in Atlanta. The business associate was in Atlanta, and she became ill and had to have emergency surgery while she was there. So when she gets out of the hospital, she was planning on getting on a plane and flying back to wherever she came from right after surgery. So my wife says, no. You are going to come and stay with us for a few days until you are ready to get on a plane and go home. So we told Nick, many of you know Nick, my son, who is so loving and so giving, just an amazing light in this world. So we told him that this lady was coming to stay. So he thought about this for a minute and he said, she ours now? She ours now? We said, no, she's not ours for good, but she's staying here for a few days. He said, we take care of her good. Our kids know that we all belong to each other, even if we sometimes forget it. It is in acts of service that we remember this truth. Each act we do changes our global consciousness, adding to it wisdom and awareness and compassion and love. This energy continues to ripple out and has effects which are boundless. This is how our human consciousness changes on a global level, turning away from fear and greed and violence toward hope, compassion, and community. The change begins with each one of us. There is no other way for this to happen. In his book, The Active Life, Parker Palmer wrote, "To be fully alive is to act. Action is more than movement. It is movement that involves expression, discovery, the formation of ourselves and our world. As we act, we not only express what is in us and help give shape to the world, we also receive what is outside us, and we reshape our inner selves. When we act, the world acts back, and we and the world are co-created. As this energy goes out from us, it also works a change in us. When you open your heart and give to another, what's the first thing that happens? Your heart opens first. The first recipient of this joy is you. You can only give what you already have. That joy begins with you. We are called to be fully alive, to participate, to listen to each other, to be unafraid as we bring all our gifts to bear with joy. We are daily given the opportunity, what's the sports metaphor here, to leave it all on the field. Hold nothing back. We leave it all on the field. A couple of years ago, I read a book, you may have read the same book, by an Australian author named Bronnie Ware. Her book was called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. Ms. Ware, who was a hospice nurse, cared for those making their transitions, and as she sat with them and cared for them, she noticed that many of their concerns as they approached their transitions appeared to be very similar. The first top regret of those facing death was, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Others were, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And I wish I had let myself be happier. So what do these sound like to you? To me, they sound like the wishes of people who walked right by the opportunities to be true to themselves, to listen to the voice of love and joy inside and just go where it led them. We spend so much time doing what other people expect of us, or even worse, doing what we think they expect of us without even checking with them, that we miss the opportunities right in front of us to find joy and happiness and meaning in our lives. We always think we have more time, that we won't run out. We are wrong, and too often we lose the opportunity to bring our special gifts to bear. These are gifts that only we have. They are not gifts that others can bring. They are the ones that you brought with you and that you are meant to express here. We lose the opportunity to connect, to lift up, to share joy with others. The acts we take, again, don't have to be huge. Even a small one makes a difference. You know this in your own life. Remember when you have done that one thing that made a difference to someone else. Helped a stranger, seen a stressed out mother with 3 young children in the grocery line behind you and just paid for her groceries. Said a kind word to somebody in need. You felt different all day, I'm betting, as they did. You can remind people with every act, you can remind them that joy and hope remain possibilities in this world. I'd like to end with that quote. I'm sure you've heard it, but I just love it. From Bengali writer, musician, and poet Rabindranath Tagore, who wrote, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. He slept, he woke, he acted. It wasn't until he acted that he realized that the joy of life lies in service. So, thank you for listening, and I'd like to close with a reading by Gay Crawford.
Good morning. There is a Hasidic story of a rabbi who had a conversation with the Lord about heaven and hell. It has been attributed to Rabbi Haim of Ramshik, but other versions of this parable appear in other faith traditions as well. I will show you hell, said the Lord, and led the rabbi into a room in the middle of which was a very big round table. The people sitting at it were famished and desperate. In the middle of the table was an enormous pot of stew, more than enough for everyone. The smell of the stew was delicious and made the rabbi's mouth water. The people around the table were holding spoons with very long handles. Each person found that it was just possible to reach the pot to take a spoonful of the stew. But because the handle was longer than anyone's arm, no one could get this food into his mouth. The rabbi saw that their suffering was indeed terrible. Now I will show you heaven, said the Lord. And they went into another room, exactly the same as the first. There was the same round, big table and the same enormous pot of stew. The people, as before, were equipped with the same long-handled spoons, but here they were well-nourished and plump, laughing and talking. At first, the rabbi could not understand. It is simple, but requires a certain skill, said the Lord. You see, they have learned to feed each other. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed that talk. And again, thank you so much to Gay Crawford for her fabulous reading. If you are ever interested in being a reader for One World, please give us an email at info@oneworldspiritualcenter.net. We would love to have you. It is way fun to have different folks doing our readings every week. So please give us some thought, and if you're interested, let us know. info@oneworldspiritualcenter.net. So this is the point in our gathering when we give our gifts and our offerings in support of One World. And I just want to say again, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I do want to say it again, thank you so much for your continued support. It is entirely because of you and your generosity that we are able to continue bringing you whatever we do, whether it's this Sunday gathering, our classes, our Wednesday discussion groups, our morning meditation, our kids program, whatever it is we do. It's entirely because of your continued generosity, your sharing of the abundance that is available to you. Thank you so much. We commit these tithes to the continued work of One World. We bless them and we thank you.
Thank you so much for your ongoing generosity. You can easily donate to One World. Just go to our website, click on the Giving tab at the top, then the donate link, and then this page will appear. And as you can see, there is a large Donate Now button in the center. That will take you to our giving app called Tithely. Or you can send a check to the address shown in the center of the page. Or you can also give using the PayPal link. Again, thank you so much for your continued generosity and support. We just have one announcement today. One World is looking for a new person to publish our weekly newsletter. This is a fun publication to do as you can use your own creativity and create your own style for our newsletter. We can train you if needed so you can get some guidance on how to use MailChimp and also learn some neat tips and tricks to different features of MailChimp. If you're interested, let us know by emailing or calling us with the information at the bottom of the slide.
Let's take a minute to bless our kids. Our youth director, Reverend Rebecca Johnson, has a phone call with our kids, a Zoom call, every Sunday at 10:30, where they talk about the principles that we explore here. Compassion and kindness and love. In the month of September, they explored the idea of divine order. We are so grateful to each one of our kids who shows up with their creativity and joy and wisdom, so willing to share. And we are also so grateful to Reverend Rebecca, who brings her gifts to create this wonderful program. Thanks to all. And if you are ever interested in having one of your kids join our youth program, please contact us at info@oneworldspiritualcenter.net, and we'll tell you a bit more about what we offer. So right now, let's bless our kids. Let's remind them that we see the divine in them, we are proud of them, and we love them. Together, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divine in each and every one of you, because we do. As we move into our closing song and closing pictures, I'd just like to say thank you so much for being with us today. I hope you enjoyed our gathering. Have a fabulous and a peaceful, a wonderful week, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Hit it, boys. Have a great week, everybody, and we will see you next time, same place, same time.